All right, English 1 students, we are very briefly going to go over your drama unit notes PowerPoint. In this particular video lecture, I'm going to go ahead and go over everything related to your drama unit, the last new content unit of the semester. We'll talk due dates, we'll talk about your assignments and your project that's coming up, quiz and test details, all right here in this one video. So this will be the only video that you need over the next 2 weeks, aside from the weekly introduction videos from Monday, May 4th and Monday, May 11th. Okay, so jumping right on in. Due dates. You guys have 4 common lits due for this particular unit. Shakespeare poem, a bit of a Shakespeare play, a informational piece on Shakespeare, and then 1 additional piece just for some context and some supplemental information about the unit. There is a set of writing worksheets that are going to be due, and then, as I said, quiz, test, and project standard for what we always do with our units. So here are your due dates. You can see them. I included them in a slide on the notes this time around, but you can also obviously access them, the assignments and due dates and details in Canvas. So your literary terms, we're going to start here. You've got 10, as always. Some of these we've probably touched on a little bit earlier in the semester, some of these probably not so much, but just so that you have them and understand that, as always, this is going to be your quiz for the unit. Understanding these words, understanding how they apply to the text that we're reading, their definitions, what they mean. So an aside, a remark or a passage by a character in a play intended to be heard by the audience but unheard by characters in the play. A lot of you are going to know this as breaking the fourth wall. Oh, I'm trying to think of our movie or our TV show we always reference in class. Anytime you're watching a TV show or a movie and you see the camera pan to one particular character, that character is going to look directly at the camera, and then when it zooms back out to the rest of the setting, the rest of the scene, the other characters in the shot aren't going to realize that the character said something directly to the audience. So speaking to the audience is known as an aside. Dialogue, you all know, conversation between 2 or more people. Foil, we should have studied during epic poetry. We talked about these characters who are in high contrast with another character. For us, this can be known as maybe villains, protagonist versus antagonist, any 2 characters who are basically opposites. They're going to be foils of each other. Irony, we've touched on earlier in the semester, but we're looking at it again, especially because now we're going to be talking about dramatic irony. So with dramatic irony, it's going to be when a character acts out something that is in direct opposition of what they should be saying or doing. And this is usually to make fun of a situation or to make fun of someone. So when a person acts as if they care for someone that they don't genuinely care for, maybe an enemy. So when a character in the play is going to say, "Oh, I care about you," but that's not genuinely a person they care about. Monologues are long speeches by one actor in a play or movie. Monologues, think mono, so 1. And you'll know a monologue because of how many other people are on the stage. So mono meaning 1, and this 1 speech by this 1 actor means that nobody else is going to be on the stage. It may come in the form of an aside, or it may just be the person standing along in their room thinking their thoughts out loud. And those are thoughts that the audience is going to need to hear, but the character isn't talking to the audience. They're just talking to themselves in a room. Then you have soliloquy, the word below it, an act of speaking one's thoughts aloud when by oneself, regardless of any other hearers. What this means is when you have a character who is standing in one room and they're speaking their thoughts aloud, it looks like a monologue, but oh wait, you have someone in the corner. You have someone in the hallway on the other side of the door listening to that conversation. That's when it turns into a soliloquy. So you want to pay particular close attention when you're reading your text about if there are any other characters directly involved in that scene, or maybe there are some stage directions that help you understand, hey, there's someone nearby who's listening to this conversation and the speaker is unaware. And then we have our definitions related to tragedy. So tragedy, Romeo and Juliet, the part of the play that you're going to read, is known as a tragedy because it ends in sadness. Both of our characters are going to commit suicide out of angst for not being able to be with one another. And so Shakespeare writes quite a few tragedies. He's also known for some of his comedies, and these will be anything that end in a happy ending. And that's basically the two types of plays that are most commonly addressed. And then we have the tragic hero. The tragic hero is something we definitely talked about with epic poetry. And we've referenced that this particular hero is going to have some kind of downfall, have some kind of upset, some kind of Achilles heel, if you will. And you'll see that the tragic hero in Romeo and Juliet, Romeo and Juliet both themselves could be considered tragic heroes. Then we have the tragic flaw. This is the actual Achilles heel of our tragic hero. So what is their ultimate downfall? What is their ultimate undoing? What's so wrong? You know? What is the thing that keeps them from being the perfect person? And then we have tragic illumination. And this is where any time in the play where that tragic flaw is highlighted, where it is brought to light, where it is made extremely obvious, not only for the audience, but for other characters as well. So you have your 10 words. Make sure that you understand their applications, their definitions going into the quiz on Friday, May 8th, okay? So for the drama unit, a little bit of a lighthearted end. I want you guys to practice some writing skills, but I also want you to be able to apply what we're talking about here with drama and Shakespeare in particular, and the idea of monologues and soliloquies. So your instructions here say that you're going to write a monologue. Standard students, your monologue needs to be 100 words minimum. Honor students, it's 150 words. It does need to be written in lines like a poem. So we're going to use some Shakespearean writing techniques and writing styles here. So a 10-line minimum for standard, a 15-line minimum for honor students. When I say Shakespearean style monologue and I say poem, there are two things that are not needed. There is no need for a rhyme scheme. You can write a poem without rhyming. You all should know that. We talked about it in poetry. And then second, you do not need to write in Shakespearean language. Now, those of you who want to challenge yourselves are more than welcome to attempt it. I will not dock you points for trying to write in Shakespearean language, so long as you kind of give me a little note, hey, this was my stab at Shakespearean language. But for the rest of you, you can use modern English, okay? So the goal is a monologue. 100 words standard, 150 words honors, 10-line minimum for standard, 15-line minimum for honors. And those two things work to the word count and the line count work together. It's not 100 words plus 10 lines. It's 10 lines minimum that have to have at least 100 words total across that 10-line minimum. The scenario for your monologue should be written out above the monologue and turned in as a single document on Canvas. So pick your situation, pick your scenario. This is your monologue. What do you want to speak about? Think of this kind of as a rant, guys, because that's mainly what we're looking at when we talk about monologues. We talk about a character's thoughts and they're expressing them to themselves on stage. You know, what's on your mind? It is the end of a semester. We have been social distancing. We have been distance learning. I imagine some of us have quite a couple of gripes by now. Lots going on. Maybe you're super bummed out that you have missed a life event of some sort. Personally, I have fell victim to the quarantine birthdays. So write your scenario. Pick something that is on your mind and give me a monologue about it, okay? So there's a rubric in Canvas. You can find it by clicking on the drama unit project assignment link in Canvas. I'll also link it here in this PowerPoint notes. But just make sure you take a look at that rubric so you understand how I'm going to grade it. And let me know if you've got questions, okay? I've got some notes here for you about reading Shakespeare. You'll see a lot of this reoccur when you get to the drama unit writing worksheets. But just so you know, like if you're having difficulty with, and the only passage that this should apply to is the actual Romeo and Juliet excerpt. If you have any questions, reference this slide when you're reading, okay? Here are your drama unit writing worksheets. You can access them here. You can access them in Canvas. The note that they are due on May 11th. And what I'm looking at, guys, is helping you understand Shakespearean language. This is going to be for the purposes of you writing your monologue as well as reading that Romeo and Juliet play. Now, when you get to your common lits for this unit, the first one that everyone's going to read is a sonnet. It's Sonnet 18. Along with reading the passage, answering the questions as you see them in common lit, one thing that's going to help you break this passage down, respond to these questions, go back and look at that TP cast that we did in the poetry unit. Try to apply it to this poem and see if you can still pick all these things out. I'm using this kind of dual purposely to help you prepare and kind of just refresh your memory about the semester, okay? Then we have The Legacy of William Shakespeare, which we are all going to read. This is coming from a nonfiction text, so the nonfiction unit we just finished using the thieves approach. Can you guys still do this? Can you apply it to this particular passage? Then we have the Romeo and Juliet excerpt that everyone's going to read. This is another common lit. Before you guys read that particular part of Romeo and Juliet, you may want to visit the SparkNotes link I have right here and review the plot of the Romeo and Juliet story. So for those of you who don't know it, I'm going to give you a SparkNotes of the SparkNotes version. We have a play here written by William Shakespeare. You have Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet. They are from rival houses, meaning these two families don't like each other, but these young people meet when Romeo ends up at a party at the Capulet mansion, Juliet's house. He was not invited, but he did get in because of people that he knew. And when they meet at this party, they fall in love at first sight. And in a matter of 3 to 5 days, these two fashion a plan that they are going to get married and run away together. Of course, as I've already told you, this is a Shakespeare tragedy, so it cannot end that way. Instead, what's going to happen is after Romeo and Juliet marry in secret, Romeo is going to get into a fight with the cousin of Juliet, and because of this fight, Romeo is going to be exiled from town, meaning he's going to be kicked out of town and basically told that if he ever returns, he will be killed. And so he leaves. Problem is he's left his wife Juliet to kind of fend for herself. In fending for herself, her parents decide that it's time for her to get married, and they try to marry her off. Well, that's problematic because she's already married to Romeo. So she comes up with a plan by working with some of the other people in town, one of them being a priest, and she fakes her death. Well, when she fakes her death, Romeo is going to find this out, return to town where he shouldn't be, find her dead, or so he thinks because she is faking it, and kill himself. And this is where she will wake up from her fake dead. She will see Romeo next to her who is legitimately dead, and she will then kill herself. So lots going on there. You can obviously, again, reread that summary right here, or just rewind this video, listen to me explain it again. But essentially, that's what you've got. So you've got a piece of the play here that I want you to read, and your common lit questions that you're going to respond to. I think this is going to suffice enough to say that we have covered Shakespearean drama and have you prepared for later Englishes that may reference this text. Okay? Now, my standard students, you have an additional information piece called Shakespeare, Who Was the Bard? just a little bit more about William Shakespeare, his works, things of that nature. And then honor students, yours is actually going to be on tragedy. So Aristotle is going to critique the idea of the tragedy, as in the work, and the literary element of what are tragic works. Okay? And that's going to be it. So you have all of your notes here. This is the one and only video you need. I'm not going to do any other videos for the project or the Common Lists. I think we've got enough done here. Just make sure that you guys are working, getting things turned in on time. I know we've had a few big announcements in the past couple days, past week, about grading. My biggest thing is, guys, if you can, please keep working. These are content materials that I cover with every single student that I see every single semester. I really would hate to know that you were moving forward unprepared because you didn't get this content, simply because you didn't want to continue working. Guys, this is it. Like, if you can handle these last 8 assignments over the next 2 weeks, classes are done. Enjoy your summer, and we'll be all right. Okay. So if you've got questions about any of the announcements about grading and completing your work for the next 2 weeks, please don't hesitate to email me, sooner rather than later. I will do the best I can to kind of help you figure things out and move forward. All right. So enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good one.